Hello art teachers. In this video I'm going to demonstrate how to sew this two-sided heart out of felt. Fifth graders have to come up with a plan, make a pattern, cut and sew whatever they want out of felt. Now this one is going to be a heart, but what I'm showing you is going to work for really any two-sided shape. A lot of the kids make hearts, but any two-sided shape will work the same way. I demonstrated the whip stitch in the cube video. You can take a look at that if you want to see whip stitch. In this one, I'm going to do the running stitch. One of the things that the students have to do for this project is to make their own pattern and figure out how many pieces they're going to need. So because I'm making a simple heart, I'm just going to cut out that pattern. I'm going to trace my pattern right on the felt with a marker. This is a permanent marker, but Crayolas will work just fine. Also, some softer drawing pencils will trace pretty easily without tearing up the cloth. The important thing for this project, which sometimes it's hard to get students to really understand until they do it, is that both pieces have to be exactly the same size and shape, which is one reason I have them make their own patterns. You're going to need to have nice scissors for this. Regular classroom scissors are just going to chew up your fabric. You don't need scissors for everyone in the class. Just having a dozen pair of shears will do fine. And they're not really expensive. If you go to the fabric store and buy them one at a time, they can be really expensive, especially if you get, quality, long-lasting ones. But the ones I get for school, I get them for about $1 a pair, really. I buy them in lots of about 25. But I teach a lot of needlework, so I go through a lot of scissors. After you have two pieces of the same shape, and again, this can be any shape that they decide to do, you want to pin those together. I usually like to help the students do the pinning because they tend to just want to pin it like that, and that doesn't actually hold anything together. You have to go in, over, and up. Put one more in there. I'm going to use a steel needle with a sharp point, and I'm using a single strand of pearl cotton. I have other videos that explain in detail all of the equipment that you need and also compares all the different kinds of cloth. For my running stitch, I'm going to start underneath, just inside, and I'm going to bring my stitch all the way through. This is very important, and this is something that beginning students don't want to pull their stitches all the way through. They want to go really quickly, and then they sometimes get all knotted up because they are not pulling each stitch all the way through. Felt is really easy to stitch on if you have a sharp needle. Do not use a blunt needle for this, or do not use a plastic needle. I've talked to art teachers who have been very frustrated with trying to teach stitching in class because they have gotten plastic needles because they think somehow that's going to be safer or easier. But you will see that felt has no holes in it at all. There is no weave. It's an unwoven fabric, so you need that sharp needle to be able to punch the hole. Now, if I were doing this for myself, my stitches would be smaller, neater, and perhaps not black. But I want it to be able to show up on camera, and I also want to have a close approximation of what it's going to look like when fifth graders or middle school does this. Even if you're teaching high school, if they've never done any stitching before, this is a really quick, easy project just to learn the equipment and the materials that they will use to design something more elaborate. Now, once you go through an area, you don't need the pin anymore. The running stitch is about the easiest stitch you can do. The whip stitch, which I use on the cube project, is also as easy. The thing you have to watch out for when doing the running stitch, and also the whip stitch, is that kids will very often not be paying attention to what they're doing, and then they switch from one kind of stitch to the other. Oh no, now I'm doing the whip stitch. Taking stitches out is so easy. Sometimes students stress out when they realize they've done something wrong. But all you have to do is take your needle off and pull it out just like that. There are many videos online that demonstrate how to thread a needle, how to tie the knot, so I'm not going to go over all that again. Now I'm starting to come to the end of my thread here. I want to make sure it doesn't get doubled up in there. A mistake that students often make is they stitch all the way up to the end, like here, and then they ask me, you know, oh, could you tie a knot in that? Well, no, because you did not leave me enough thread to work with. There's a couple things that you can do when you get to this point, depending on how far you are in the project. One easy thing to do if you're about to run out of thread is just stick it back through there. It's not going to show on that side. And then you can clip that off and start a new line. This is going to be buried inside. That's a good solution if your stitch is not going to be under any sort of pressure, especially decorative stitching. I don't really need that anymore. You can also do the tacking stitch, which I will show you at the end, but it tends to be a little bigger and therefore darker. So if you're at a spot that you want everything to be smooth and even, you probably want to skip the tacking stitch. But I think I have enough. Go all the way down to the end. I'm even going to have enough to finish. I'm a good estimator. You can stuff these with all sorts of things. You could put polyester pellets in here. If you want to make a bean bag, you can use wadded up tissue paper or toilet paper. You can get polyester fiber fill at the fabric store. It comes in a bag. Or for about 1/3 the price, you can buy a pillow at the dollar store, at the Dollar General or Walmart. And it's the exact same stuff and it's much cheaper. So when you stuff, you want to get your finger all the way in there. Shove it all the way back to the corners first. And also you want to get it in there pretty full, because once you get it all sewn up, you can't put any more in there. So you could see how much space you need to leave, about this much. If they leave too much, it's going to be easy to get the stuffing in there, but it's going to be harder for them to hold it closed while they do that final stitching. And if they make it too small, then it's going to be hard to get the stitching in there. Let them experiment and see. And if they haven't left a big enough space, they can always just pull some of those stitches out. All right, my needle has come off. I think I'm going to have enough to finish up. All right. So this, I want to make sure this gets closed. So I'm going to go right in there. And this is where I'm going to do my tacking stitch. I could go around and around, but I don't want to mess up my pattern. So I'm going to go in and out, nice and tight, in the same spot, back and forth, about 3 times. Now, you can use a contrasting stitch like this, you know, if you want to have that effect. I just used it because I wanted it to show up well on camera. If you use a color that really blends into your fabric, stitching abnormalities or, you know, places that it's a little bit thicker because of the tacking will not be so noticeable. Now, I'm not going to cut this off here. I'm going to run it through there. That's going to bury it inside. I'm going to clip it. And that is a very easy two-sided. Sometimes the students will put a ribbon on here or just a string. They can hang that as an ornament. And this two-sided design is really versatile because you can do any sort of geometric shape and make that into an ornament or, you know, something to hang. You can also put, say, an applique or another layer on top. You could put beads, buttons. This is a good, solid base for all sorts of creativity. So that's the heart and the running stitch. Here's the cube I made. So you can see it's got 6 pieces. That is 12 seams done in the whip stitch. A little bit more complicated, but it's fun because it's squishy and you can throw it. And also I've done this one in the big black Frankenstein stitches, but you can do this in much more attractive stitches than this. I also have a purse, which is going to show the blanket stitch. There's a video called How to Learn Needlework in Only 12 Years. I think that's the title of it, which covers my whole K through 12 curriculum of needlework and sewing. And another one that goes over tools and materials, what kind of needles go with which kind of cloth and string for which projects. I have one that's a real basic how to sew on felt. And of course I have plenty of non-needlework art teacher videos as well. I'm posting my entire curriculum online, so like and subscribe to find out everything I know.